Election Committee. If elected, a candidate for the Board of Directors will serve a 3-year term of office and will have the fiduciary duty to act in all times at the best interest of the corporation, with powers set forth in Section 12 in the bylaws of East River Housing Corporation. In this unusual year, shareholders were given the opportunity to submit questions for all of the candidates via email. They were screened by me, the chair, to ensure that no questions were directed solely to an incumbent candidate, a specific candidate, or shared with any candidate. I have edited questions to a generic format but retained the topic. Duplicate questions have been condensed into one question on the topic. Each question will be read to the candidates by myself, the moderator. Then each candidate will have the opportunity to respond to every question as per jump ball format of the League of Women Voters. Candidates may use all of the allotted time for a detailed answer to the question, or briefly indicate agreement or disagreement with another candidate's response, or choose not to answer and use that time for another statement within a 1-minute time frame. So, I'd like to introduce each candidate in alphabetical order. Michele AMAR, Stephen Barbieri, Lee Berman, Anthony Brownie, Dove Goldman,
Aye.
Denise KOLLER, AYANNA QUINT, Matthew SCHATZ, and Diana WONG. Now we will listen to each of our candidates as they present an opening statement for up to 2 minutes, and we'll begin with Michele.
Hi, everybody. Thank you all for coming and attending this webinar. I just want to start to apologize for my voice because I have a sore throat. So I'm going to go ahead and give my statements. I am Michele AMAR, and I'm seeking your vote for the re-election of the upcoming Board of Directors. I am currently on the board, and I've been living here with my 3 children for over 22 years. As you know, this year was particularly difficult, and we made sure with the board that our buildings were safe, clean, and all maintenance operation ran smoothly to accommodate all of you. Our buildings are well maintained, and I hope that our cooperators feel safe and happy here. For my role, I reviewed most packages and interviewed new applicants every month on Zoom. With the help of our accounting team, we reviewed our mortgage and refinanced our mortgage at a much lower rate to have enough cash flow available in case of an emergency. With our management, we review our security team to keep the building safe. We reviewed all necessary improvements to keep our costs low. We monitor progress with the City of New York regarding the resiliency project. We respond to all the requests of our cooperator and implement new safety measures. Everyone in our management and maintenance office has been working hard to respond promptly to the request of our cooperators. Our grounds are well maintained, and our buildings are safe. But there's always room for improvement. And moving forward, I would like to improve our communication to be always accessible to answer your questions, whether it is via email or via a monthly newsletter. I would like to keep our co-op financially stable in spite of the increasing taxes from the city. And I would like to make sure that our maintenance stay as low as possible. I would like to digitize our archives and improve our online system to make our systems more efficient and having more information flow. I would like to research and implement new energy-saving measures, such as solar system energies. As our neighbor, I'm so sorry for my voice. As our neighborhood is evolving and we anticipate significant changes in the next few years, I'm committed to work hard and to seek more cost-saving measures to improve the quality of life and ultimately the value of our cooperative. Let's keep working together to build a better community.
Thank you, Michelle. The next, Steve Barbieri. Go ahead, please.
Hey, thanks everyone for taking the time out of your busy day to join us all. I'm Steve Barbieri. I lived here on the Lower East Side for my entire life, and my family still resides here. All our friends and really good friends from the neighborhood. I just know everyone around the area. I know that over the past couple of years, on the past 3 years, I've been on the board. I think maybe in the past, I think a lot of people tend to do this. They kind of tend to say, oh, you know, the board doesn't do this, the board doesn't do that. And it's very hard. It's a very, you know, tough job, of course. You get criticized for a lot of things, which is understandable at all court or any, you know, any board you're on, be it work or in a residential building. But I have to say, being on the board for the past 3 years, I have to say that I have more respect for everyone on there, including myself, because it is a tough job. And I know that we have done a lot over the past, well, I've only been on it for 3 years, but particularly with the work we've done in the resiliency project, I know it sounds like it doesn't seem like a lot to do, but we really prevented the city, they were determined to like come in our parking lot and rip the whole parking lot up and really destroy the quality of life and our area and trees, everything. They were going to really just rip up the whole ground, put in our, you know, grounds in jeopardy because, you know, we not new buildings, you never know what could happen. So we definitely blocked that from happening, and that was a big win for us. And then we also did a lot of other things with the city, you know, where we had to coordinate with the planning and the design. So that took a lot of calls, it took a lot of emails, a lot of work from our entire board. And while doing so, we learned a lot about each other, and we learned a lot about our projects that we're going to come forth to the resiliency project, which obviously is needed along the border of the walls for flood protection, which in the long run will help us. We understand that. But the whole time, you know, as always, we're always worried about our community and our elderly, and of course, the shareholders are always utmost priority. During COVID, you know, we made sure that special needs were met for some of the elderly, some of the elderly shareholders. We were very adamant about making sure that all their needs were being met, whether it's little things to help them out. While doing so, we also made sure safety for all the cooperatives were present, make sure that our grounds were kept safe and clean, and that making sure that the maintenance staff did their job. And security, of course, we didn't want to limit security duty or anything else by cutting costs. While we always make sure that the costs are low for supplies and soil and everything else, we also had some big wins on the boiler project when we're trying to save money for the corporation. We also had a lot, I'm very so proud to kind of say we did a lot of work with the NORC and our elderly community. Again, we spent a lot of time working with the NORC and making sure that remain a priority for the community. And just little things that we did, like maybe people may not consider, but like the chairs that we put in the parks and some of the renovations, or the renovation for the laundry room, that was, you know, people really appreciated that. And again, I look forward to, you know, getting your support, and I definitely would like to continue being on the board and get reelected by, you know, my peers, and, you know, making sure that we continue with all we have done for the past 3 years, and continue to make sure that our cooperative grows, and to make sure that our property values remain intact. And I thank you for your cooperation and for your participation and joining. Thank you.
Okay, next, Lee Berman. Go ahead, Lee.
Thank you. Hello, and thank you all for joining us here tonight, just 7 days before our annual shareholders meeting, and after so many have already sent in their proxies. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Lee Berman. I'm born and raised here in our amazing community, and I'm happy to call East River home. And along with my wife, we're proud to be raising our 2 daughters here. I'm running for the board because in these uncertain and troubling times, there is one thing we need more than anything else: to know that we will all be able to afford to continue living here. I'm a public servant who has devoted my life to helping others. I look forward to using my ability to help bring disparate groups together to find common ground, to work through differences and bridge divides, and working to find consensus to solve problems as a board member. I'm honored to have been elected to our board in the past, to serve as Democratic District Leader, and to represent our community on the community board, as well as advocating for our community before elected officials. When I served on the board in the past, one of my top priorities was fiscal responsibility, demanding that the board unwaveringly look at every expense to make sure that every shareholder would get the best bang for their buck. Like so many in our community, whether retired, living on a fixed income, or living paycheck to paycheck, I want to ensure that not a penny is wasted and that our quality of life, security, and community is able to be maintained. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Anthony Brownie.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me at this meeting tonight. I'm a fairly new resident to the community. We moved down here about 6 years ago. And since then, I've become involved in the House Committee, and this is actually my 4th year on the House Committee. I must say doing that has been great and enlightening because I'm always trying to learn about the community and our needs here in the building. And I feel I'm in a difficult position now because people are always asking me, well, what's going on with this and what's going on with that? And because I want to learn more, I figured the next logical step would be for me to try to become a member of the board. Just so this way, when I meet people or I talk to people in the laundry room or going to the grocery store, I can say, hey, listen, this is what's happening. You know, anything that I'm supposed to, that's appropriate to say. You know, questions about security, questions about the gardens, and I just think it's a learning process. I learn about, you know, the community rooms. Maybe we could use the community rooms in a different way. Maybe we could, I hear people always asking me about the bike rooms. I'd like to learn more about how the bike rooms are monitored and kept. And also I've been working on, I write the newsletter, which doesn't come out as often as we could, and I like that to be a more frequent newsletter, maybe quarterly. Maybe we can include some notes from the board, just so people have a communication and people feel like they're part of what's going on here. So that's why I'm running. Thanks.
Next, Doug Goldman, go ahead.
Hi, Doug Goldman, Building 2. I want to take a second to remember over this past year the shareholders who passed, our neighbors, our family members who passed away, Al, who worked with us for many years, Mac, and Mr. Fields, who helped so many in our community who sadly just passed away. Many of us face a loss of employment, lack of socialization, and have the day-to-day difficulties due to COVID. This year has been extraordinarily hard on all of us on so many levels, and need to publicly acknowledge and thank the hard work that management, our staff, board, and all these people in the community, our neighbors, did to help keep us safe, you know, and help the elderly and people in need during this pandemic. I am proud that during my tenure to have worked on and joined every major project, even though they took extra time and meetings, improving our laundry room, upgrading our financial software, improving our parks between the having perennials now, the fence, the chairs, the boiler room project that saved us millions, to name just a few projects. This past 2 years, we worked very hard to make sure that during the upcoming coastal resiliency project, that they are not using a pile driver on our Delancey parking lot and, you know, ruining the quality of life. We are trying to minimize it all. The discussion was over a lot of extra meetings and late hours, and I should actually thank again my family now for allowing me to do all of this for us. I plan on continuing to work hard to always improving our quality of life, of being fiscally responsible. Every few years, we talk about and we analyze the feasibility of doing cogen in the boiler plant. It's something that should, again, be coming up and should be reviewed about the cost of the REI, the return on investment. to continue to ensure we maximize our revenue while working to keep all costs down, to hopefully once safe to open our gym, our children playroom, and community spaces to all of us, to work hard and continue to improve just all of our quality of lives. We live in an incredible, diverse, and beautiful community, and I want to continue to work hard to help you. I've always provided my email address. Many of you have my phone number, or well, just presented your thoughts and concerns when running into me on top of the normal communications that are sent to the board. I always worked hard to be responsive and help out in any item presented to me beyond the normal items that are board related. I want to thank you all for your past support and ask again for your support again in this upcoming election. Thank you.
Thank you, Dove. Next, Denise Kohler. Denise?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight and taking time out of your busy schedule to listen to myself and the other candidates. My name is Denise Kohler, and I've lived in Building 4 for 17 years with my 7-year-old son who goes to PS 42. I'm currently the treasurer on the PTA there and part of the school leadership team. I remember when I was living in the East Village and learned about the community down here, and I used to take the bus quite often to just kind of get a sense of the neighborhood. And Dove actually helped me find my apartment. So, but I just had a wonderful time coming down here, and I got to meet a few people. And it's just been a special place to live ever since, and I've enjoyed raising my son here. Like many people, I just want to get involved with the board to help out and to give back. And I think that, the current board has done a great job and people have served for a long time, but I think that fresh ideas are great, and to work with the incumbents and new people, I think that we could just kind of regenerate all these different ideas that people have, because I think, we're all on the same page that we want financial stability, we want transparency, we want to keep costs down, because we all love living here. So I want an opportunity to be able to serve all of you, and to meet you and to just do my part. So thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Next is AYANNA Quint. Go ahead, AYANNA.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is AYANNA Quint, and I live at 575 Grand. My professional background is in photography, direction, and production. And basically what that means is that I hire photographers either for editorial or commercial clients. And maybe most crucially for our purposes here, I create and manage the budgets for these projects. This can be as small as a single shoot or as large as a multi-shoot campaign for a global corporation. I'm adept at running a business and collaborating with clients, which often means listening to various viewpoints and finding pragmatic solutions to problems. I also have 2 kids who have been home since March, which also involves a lot of creative problem solving. I've lived in the Lower East Side for more than 20 years. My family and I moved to East River in 2013 as renters, and were lucky enough to be able to purchase our apartment in 2015. What drew us to East River was the sense of community. It's always wonderful to run into people you know from the buildings on the street and have a chat and catch up. And that's been harder this year, of course, but in the past few months, I've loved getting to know more of my neighbors through this campaign. There are so many interesting and talented people living in East River who have wonderful ideas for how to continue to improve our cooperative. My husband and I love living here, and perhaps more importantly, my kids love it too. I want to ensure that East River is viable for them in the future and for generations to come. What do I think I can bring to the board of directors? Well, I'm a pragmatist who believes in collaborative thinking and creative problem solving. I value fairness, transparency, and hard work. If elected to the board of directors, I will strive to do the following: communicate regularly with shareholders in a clear, respectful, professional, and transparent manner, strategize ways to provide financial security for the co-op while keeping common charges affordable, maintain NORC funding and prioritize improvement projects that help cooperators with building accessibility, plan for future capital repairs so we can avoid unexpected monthly assessments, maximize the potential of our common spaces, which can also increase our passive income and help our bottom line, find ways to decrease the wait times for parking, storage, and bike spots, and hold annual financial meetings in addition to the annual meeting. East River is a unique and special place with a rich history built on traditions that help shape the Lower East Side. I'm proud to call it my home, and I would be honored to be able to give something back by serving on the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, AYANNA. And last, forgive me, Matthew SCHATZ, next. Thank you.
Hello all. My name is Matthew Schatz, and I've been an East River cooperator for the past 11 years. Professionally, I work in the special education field as a teacher and an early intervention provider. Obviously, this has been a very difficult year, but I hope to use this as an opportunity to keep the excellent aspects of our co-op standing while stepping up into the 21st century to improve our connection with our environment, to mitigate our negative effects while keeping our co-op at the great value that it exists at currently. I just wanted to say thank you very much to the current board. They clearly have been doing a great job, as the past boards have previously, and all the staff members that work with and for us, for all their resiliency, hard work, and flexibility. Basically, Anthony and myself both are on the housing committee, and I wanted a chance to extend my reach and try to do more and have a more lasting impact on our cooperative to help minimize the effects against nature, but also to maximize the value that our co-op represents. So I feel we need to do what's right for the earth, our residents, and our community in the best way we know how, while keeping our costs low. It's important to keep our costs low and our quality of life high. And I'll just repeat myself, and some of the ways to do this, exploring moves away from our reliance on fossil fuels, looking at the underutilized sites on the ground to determine whether we can use these to generate more income to, again, keep our costs low, looking at our sublet policy to make it more robust, and enhancing the infrastructure of our rental properties to generate a more substantial income to pass on to us as our cooperators. And basically, as the money from our flip tax dwindles, we should need to find creative, long-lasting ways to ensure viable income sources while keeping the earth in mind so that we do the least harm as possible. And there's some low-hanging fruit that we can apply or assess, things like ensuring the proper installation of windows and doors, as well as putting our lights on timers, those kind of things that we can talk about more, and also to support our NORC community as vital and important residents within our co-op. So I hope to have a chance to represent you as a co-op board member, and thank you very much for your time and for listening to what I had to say.
Thank you, Matthew. And Diana Wong.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here tonight and spending time with us. My name is Diana Wong. I am running again for the seat of the East River Board of Directors. I have lived here at East River since October 1955, which shows you how long I've been here. And as a young girl, I've had the privilege to witness the changes in many years with our parks, with our parks, paved with wooden boards because the cement was not poured yet, and hanging light bulbs because the hallways, ceilings were not finished. Now, look at what we have. Hallways with sconces, and the park is filled with beautiful flowers. I've watched the families grow. Our children went to school together, played together. All in all, a wonderful place to live. We have shown in this pandemic, neighbors helping neighbors, shopping for food, picking up their meds, and even helping with laundry. As far as the resiliency package that has been presented to us, we have stood strong and fought the city on many issues, such as moving the watershed out of our parking lots, changing the side of the ramp away from the front of our property. We want to ensure the safety, the noise level, and the integrity of our building and make sure they're not in jeopardy. It is an ongoing project that needs to be policed. Our financial status is constantly changing. The New York City and state has assessed our buildings and raised our taxes to such highs that we, the board, has to be diligent and watch with the thoughts of our fellow cooperators. So with all of that in mind, please consider casting your ballot so that we can continue the watch and protect this, our home. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Diana. All candidates, thank you for presenting your bio and interest as well as your experience and objective. We're going to get questions now. We'll start in alphabetical order. For the first question, we'll go to Michelle Amar, and then every one of you will have the opportunity to answer the same question. So listen carefully, and I will repeat it if necessary. Question 1, what are your top 3 issues or items you would seek to accomplish if elected to the board? Michelle, you begin. You have 1 minute, and then we'll move on in alphabetical order.
My top 3 issues to accomplish or to improve would be to improve our communication and to create a line of communication between the board and the shareholders so that we can answer questions on an ongoing basis. My second, and that's probably the most important one, is to keep our costs low, and the third one is to keep our buildings safe and to make sure they are well maintained. And also, if I may say, to make sure that our maintenance doesn't go up.
Thank you, Michelle. Next, Steve Barbieri, the same question.
Hello. Yes, I definitely would have, similar to Michelle, I would have first on the list would be our financials and our costs, of course. Definitely want to make sure that we continue and make sure keeping our costs low and our maintenance as low as possible. Second thing would be definitely to make sure our safety, our everything is safe, our safety and security. Also, and then the good thing, of course, the third thing would also be communications to make sure, because I know that has been something that people have mentioned, that, you know, we weren't being more communicable with the community. So we definitely have to work on that for sure.
Thank you, Steve Barbieri. Next, Lee Berman, same question.
Hi. Among the top 3 issues, 1, fiscal responsibility, making sure that management prepares monthly financials for the board of directors and that the board reviews them. When I was on the board in the past, it was frequent that did not occur. There was a period of time, 7 months in a row and 9 months in a row, that the board could not review monthly financials. You can't run a corporation like that. Number 2, looking at our talented and robust staff to find out how we can cut some expenses by using that robust staff to do some of the work that we currently do with contractors, saving millions of dollars over multiple years. And 3, completing the low pressure conversion project from the boiler room that I and many others on the board voted to approve, that would have saved us over $500,000 a year in labor costs by converting from the current high pressure steam system that we have to low pressure. Over the last 10 years, we would have saved $5 million. So those are among the top 3 priorities.
Thank you, Lee. Anthony Brownie, same question.
I think my first choice would be basically security and understanding security and working with our maintenance and management. I get a lot of questions because we do have a lot of people bringing packages into the building, delivery people, and I would just like to come up with a formalized understanding of what their role is and define their role. Another would be basically learning more about our community spaces in the building, what they're used for, what we could use them for. Can we make room for more bikes or more community rooms that everyone can use? And also, the gardens are beautiful. I think there are a couple people who are on the House Committee and that I know that could contribute to making them even more beautiful, who have backgrounds in horticulture, and those would be my top 3.
Thank you, Anthony. Okay, Dov Goldman, same question.
Thank you. I mean, everyone had some very good points. I definitely think that our #1 issue is going to be quality of life at the moment with the resiliency project coming up. I definitely think that we have to keep our finger on the pulse on that, make sure that that does not affect us, or minimize it as much as we can. Number 2 is obviously important is financials to me. I think that we obviously have to be fiscally responsible, keep our costs as low as we can without affecting our quality of life, and trying to work hard to actually improve our quality of life. With what's been going on, there's other buildings nearby where they've even found people in their building, sleeping in their lobby, sleeping in the 10th floor. Recently, I think security right now is very key and very, very pivotal, but I probably would more pivot to the fact that we have to work with maintenance on hidden issues like pipes that may have issues. And those are, to me, is always going to be the concern, is the hidden, our buildings' age and infrastructure and trying to maintain those. And I think that's where I would more that, though obviously we have to keep security up there.
Thank you, Doe. Denise Kohler, same question to you. Denise, we can't hear your volume. Can
you hear me now? Okay, I'm sorry, I called in, so I think it's a little bit of a different setup. If I was elected to the board and was serving, the first thing I would do is do a deep dive of the financials. I don't have a lot of comfort around any of the information we've seen. Like Lee, I would like to see monthly reporting of that information and look for where we can extract some cost savings. I think that's pretty much my main focus. The second thing would be to kind of take a look at long-term projects such as the infrastructure and, the boiler room project. I know is something that the current board worked on, but my great concern is that we don't have any reserve fund for things that are going to be coming up. And I hope to live here for a very long time and don't want to be surprised and don't want any of my neighbors to be surprised. And then the third thing is just around quality of life. I think that, like most people, we're hearing conversations around, there's no access to parking, there's no access to bike rooms, there's no access to storage. I'd like to just take a closer look at that and get a better understanding of how that process works, so we can see if there's some wiggle room to kind of create more spaces for people. Thank you.
Ayanna, Quint, please.
Hi. So very similar to what other folks have said, looking at our budgets and our costs to see where we can trim some things and streamline things without affecting the quality of life at the co-op. Also, I'd love to do an audit of the common spaces to see how spaces are being used and see if some of that can be transformed into storage space or bike storage space to cut those wait times. That also translates to passive income for the co-op, which helps with the bottom line and cuts down on people's frustration on having to park their bikes on the street or, like myself, pay a lot of money to Manhattan Mini Storage, which I would much rather pay to the co-op. And also, to Michelle's point, I would like to improve communication between the board and the shareholders. And also, along those lines, I would love to improve the website for management and the co-op and co-op village in general. There's no place to get access to previous communications from the board or management. Once those memos are gone from underneath your door, they're gone. There was no information on this meeting on the website. I think those are simple, easy things that allow people access to the board and to management without being expensive and they improve people's quality of life.
Thank you, Ayanna. Matthew Schatz.
Hello again. So first and foremost, clearly this is an unprecedented time in our history of our city and our nation. So the first and foremost, I think that keeping everyone safe and the building safety and the resident safety is of utmost concern. Second, I would focus on fiscal responsibility, and as Lee was saying, which I totally agree with, is visiting, and as Dove was saying, is visiting our infrastructure. We don't want to be penny wise and pound foolish. It's a perfect opportunity to shore up infrastructure projects that we can use to build resiliency of our co-ops for a long time. And third, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but 70% of our greenhouse gas emissions in New York City are from apartment buildings. So I would focus on trying to do this in the most environmentally friendly way to reduce our environmental impact that our buildings create. But this would also add to our financial independence by switching things over. We could save a lot of money in the long run. So those would be the three things that I'd be focusing on the most.
Thank you. That was question one. Question two, we'll start with Steve Barbieri. Here's the question. What do you believe is one of the most important abilities a director should have, and how would you utilize your professional, community, or personal experience in your role as a board member?
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear, you said, what was that? It got cut off, so I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
What do you believe is one of the most important...
Ellen, I think we forgot Diane on the last one.
Diane, did I forget?
That's
No,
okay.
my mistake. Go back. I'm sorry, Diane. Oh
That's
my...
okay.
Sorry.
No, thank you, Dove. Diana.
Thanks, Dove. Apparently being number 9 on the hit list is a wonderful place to be.
Sorry.
And of course, all the 8 people above me have said the same thing I would have said. So rather than to repeat, of course, the cost, the communication, the security, all in all is all primary things that we all have to take care of. Being on the board, those are things that we do try to do. So that's all I have to say. I think that we're trying as best as we can, being what it is. Number 9 is a great spot to be in.
Deeply. Okay, let's go to question 2. I'll repeat it again, Steve. What do you believe is one of the most important abilities a director should have? And how would you utilize your professional, community, or personal experience in your role as a board member?
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you said cooperator. So, okay, so the director definitely needs to have leadership ability for sure, and also listening ability. I know this because I do a lot of project work in my professional life, and in my career, I have a banking career, and as a project manager, you have to be able to lead the project, and you have to be able to also listen and take different pieces from everyone and be able to, you know, kind of like meet people halfway. So you have to be, you know, a little bit open to ideas. And as much as you want to like be demanding, you have to also listen. So I would do that because I'm used to doing that. So I have really good eyes and ears, and I'm always able to listen and ascertain people's opinions before making my own. And I think it's really important to get other people's opinions before making a final decision. So, but then of course, the director has to have the best, you know, formulative decision to make sure from listening to everyone else.
Thank you, Steve. Lee, goes to you. If you need me to repeat the question, feel free to do that.
I think one of the most important abilities and requirements really is the ability to listen, to analyze, to be able to reason and have compassion and understanding. This is a very diverse community with many different needs. It's about working together, being able to negotiate, and remembering that at the end of the day, this is about our fiduciary responsibility and obligation to the corporation and our shareholders, and helping board members come together. Sometimes they have to make tough decisions, but always with the best interest of the corporation and the people that we represent who live here.
Thank you. And Anthony Brownie, go ahead. You're muted. Unmute.
Sorry. Again, I've been on a couple of other boards, and for me, the most important quality is being able to have a dialogue and work with other people on your board and to try to come to agreements on certain issues, and then taking those issues and working with actually people in your office or community or here, the other co-ops, and learn from them, learn from people who live here in the co-op, get ideas from them, and just take it back to the board also. That's it.
Dove Goldman, same question. You're muted.
So, sorry about that. I have to, yes. I think it's important to having organization and understanding, being able to collaborate with everyone, seeing everyone's perception, and organizing our fiscal needs, the humanistic needs that, you know, fit all of our needs in the most efficient and responsible way. It's about taking, you know, all of this, collaborating it, and then on top of that, we have to be able to execute that while we're on the board. So I think it's not just, you know, doing it, it's also the fact that, you know, we on the board in the past few years, you know, is the execution of these items.
Thank you. Denise Kohler, same question. Denise, unmute.
Sorry. I think, as everyone said before me, I think, you know, we're all going to have the same ideas. I think that for someone coming in who has not been a board member before, I think one of the critical things is to leave any preconceived notions at the door. If you're going to come in and work with incumbents, I think that you kind of just go in and you listen and you learn, and you just kind of are open to talking to as many people as you possibly can. In my current role, on my current job, I serve on 2 different committees. So I work with people internationally. I have to, collaborate with them. I'm a project manager and pretty much a taskmaster. So I know how to get things done. So I think I serve an interesting role there, and I would have a lot to contribute.
Thank you. Ayanna Quint?
Hi. So again, as Diane said, it's, going last means you're kind of repeating what other people have said, but to Denise's point, I think as a new board member, one would have to come in and be open, able to dialogue and collaborate. And also, I think one thing that is also important is to remain goal-oriented and not get bogged down in to be able to see the forest for the trees and make sure that you are achieving things and staying on point and on task and being open to listening to other people's ideas, suggestions, and not just sticking, to your own guns because it's your idea and therefore it must be the best one. I mean, this is, as to Lee's point, a very large and diverse community, and there's a lot of voices here and a lot of different ways of being and living, and we have to be open to a lot of different ideas, needs, and suggestions. And I think that that's one of the most important things as well.
Thank you so much. Matthew Schatz?
Hello again. I have a different one, but I really like what Ayanna was saying about being goal-oriented. But mine is the ability to empathize with others and use that as a way to come to compromises with patients. In my role, my professional role as a special educator, being empathetic, being able to compromise while exhibiting patience are all necessary components of the job. So I have a lot of practice with those, but I also think they'd be great to add to myself to use to enhance the operations of the board.
Thank you. Diana Wong?
Okay, as a board member, I realize that we all have to wear different hats. We have to wear many hats. You have to be diplomatic. You have to be patient. You have to have each person that you talk to on the street have their best interests at heart and still take the time to know what we can do and what we can't do. I find that when I walk down the street, people come up and tell me, my neighbor leaves his garbage in the hallway. What should I do? I have neighbors that say, they leave their dirty laundry out there. What should I do? These are all the things that, as a board member, not necessarily that important, but we try to help. And I think as a board member, the thing that we need is patience. Patience is a wonderful thing, and it doesn't always come when you're young. It kind of grows with you. And I find that if you listen to everybody and take heed, yes, we do have a lot of problems. Yes, there is the taxes and the rents and the this and that, but everything takes patience and it takes time. You can't do all at one time. Fine.
Thank you. And next, Michelle Amar. Michelle.
All right, sorry. For me, the most important abilities would be to be able to have a global vision of the problems and the big problems, especially in finance, and to be able to have a vision that is overall global, to be able to accomplish things and implement them, but also to keep an eye and have an attention to details, because small details are also the things that are important to the member of our community. And the last one would be to have care and compassion and identify and be able to identify the needs of everyone in our community. And that is also linked to the attention to details, because as Diane was saying, everyone has different needs and questions, and it's important to be able to answer these and to not always satisfy everyone, but to do our best.
Thank you. So now we're going to question 3. Lee Berman, you'll begin. This is the question. As a result of the pandemic, finances in all New York City co-ops, including East River Housing Corporation, have been impacted with increasing costs as addressed in the board's November letter. What ideas do you have on how our co-op might seek to improve the financial outlook?
Thank you for that question. As you know, I've been a proponent for trying to cut expenses wherever we can. You know, if we look over the last 10 years of budget items, as I have, we're able to see that, for example, last year we spent over $300,000 on gardening, up from almost $100,000 10 years ago. And if we go through line by line, we'll see that our expenses have dramatically increased, including especially line items for outside contractors. And in that November memo that you just referenced, you guys were very proud to mention that some of our maintenance staff were going elsewhere to make repairs after hours. I think we can utilize, among other things, their skills to cut back on some of the outside contractors' expenses. If we're able to do that, even 10%, we're saving hundreds of thousands of dollars. In addition, I would look at increasing the modified SRE program that we have to expand that so that those on fixed incomes don't have to suffer and worry. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Same question, Anthony Brownie, and please let me repeat it if you need it.
I'm good. I think that I'm not in a position to talk about the finances. I haven't seen the finances. I'm not a board member yet, but I do know we have properties in the area, and maybe there's a way, and now's a really bad time to increase people's rents, but in the future, thinking about using those properties, we live in a really up-and-coming neighborhood, and I think values are going up and our values are going up, so maybe that's one way of generating revenue. That's my answer.
Okay, thank you. Joe Goldman.
Hi, this is a question that being on the board is something that comes to us all the time, and we're always looking at ways, whether it's to try to see minimizing the amount of overtime, trying to, you know, minimize our expenses. Sadly, most of our budget and most of our expenses that have been going up, that if you look at it over the years, is primarily stuff we have that are out of our control. It's labor costs that are, you know, are union contracted. It's the cost of the real estate assessment and abatement. It's other items to that degree, including insurance. Hopefully after the resiliency project, our flood insurance will be no longer have to pay that, and that will actually save us a lot of money, but that's not a real term solution to this. As far as our commercial spaces, if you look at about 7 weeks ago in the New York Times, there was an article talking about real estate commercial spaces and co-ops where co-ops have issues. They can't, the buildings are begging their tenants to stay because of it. Oh, sorry, I'm running out of time. So we're always looking at it and we're trying to save. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, to you, Denise Kohler.
Hi. Yeah, directly to the point, like I mentioned on the earlier question, I think we need to do a deep dive of the expenses. It's a little hard to do that, one, because I'm not on the board, and two, we haven't seen this year's financials. So I struggle to say that our expenses are out of our control because I haven't had a chance to look at them. So I think that, you know, if I'm able to get on the board, I'm going to look at it piece by piece and figure out where we can save money and where we can generate revenue. And I think that we can claw things back here and there, and that's going to add up to a big impact. So nothing should be overlooked.
Thank you, Denise. Ayanna Quint.
Just echo what Denise and Lee already said about going through the financials and taking a look at where we can cut some costs, as well as taking a look at the common spaces and seeing where we could be able to better monetize those spaces by creating, by using them for things that shareholders are already waitlisted for, like storage and bike spaces, as has been mentioned previously. I'd also like to take a look at the commercial spaces. I know that Dov has mentioned, and I saw that article as well, that this is not an ideal time to be talking about our commercial spaces, but I would say that the office spaces that are above the Grand Street storefronts seem to be perhaps under rented. I don't know because we haven't received numbers on those, but I would be curious to see what those are rented for. And also the beauty salon has also been, looks like not rented, and I'm not sure what's going on with that, but that precedes the pandemic. So I think there's places where we can definitely look to try to save money or make more money without increasing costs to shareholders.
Thank you, Ayanna. Matthew Schatz.
Okay, so answering the same question, echoing some things and bringing some new ideas. First, by being on the housing committee, I know Anthony's talked about this. We have talked with plenty of talented cooperators who are willing to get involved in certain projects that are personal to the building. Certainly visiting that and seeing save some costs about utilizing some experts within the building to switch over to enhance some of the projects that we have going on is one area. Again, looking at the commercial space to change or to move some things around to maximize revenue. But mainly my thought is to switch over or make a slow transition over to green energy. So instead of taking energy from the grid or from our boiler, we can sell our energy back to the grid, as well as if we use this time wisely to shore up our infrastructure, we can see tons of cost savings that way with putting lights on timers, for instance. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to Diana Wong.
You know, I've been on the board for many years now, and I've seen the financials, and by seeing them doesn't change anything. We see them, we know the cost of the salt, we know the cost of gasoline and oil and all the things that the building needs. By looking at them now and with this pandemic, it's a very tough situation to try to save money. We have the unions that we have to worry about. We have the taxes are going up, and now we have properties that are empty. But you know how hard it is to find people to rent now. People are closing down, shutting down. There are stores that are closed up and down the street all over the city. It's very hard now to try to start to save. What we're trying to do is keep our building together, and that's the main situation at this point right now.
Okay, thank you. Now Michelle AMAR.
As Diane was saying, this is a question that comes up almost at every board meeting, and how can we improve our financials? Right now, the main source of expenses that we have is probably the real estate taxes, and this is always the big problem. Trying to save very small amount, we might be considered, but we are already running a very lean sheep right now, and it's always a difficult task. The sources of revenue that we can count on right now are mostly the flip tax and the rental revenues that are increasing quite well, and also trying to save on every expenses that we have, but there is not very much room to play with. And also the last thing that we do that was actually very important is the refinancing of the mortgage, where we actually got a much better rate and saved a lot of money on that.
Thank you, Michelle. And Steve Barbieri.
Yes, I'd like to also echo what some of the other people said. Commercial is going to be tough to do right now, given what's going on. But I think so far we did a really good job in saving costs, from office supplies down to salt. We definitely did an excellent job as far as saving costs and getting everything as low as possible. Again, the challenge will be going forward what to do. We don't want to obviously assess an increase, because that really would not be good. Also, I think we try to get our maintenance staff to do as much as possible now. We have them doing a lot more things than they probably wouldn't have been doing a couple of years ago. So as far as the grounds are concerned, they are doing things that they kind of have to step out of their comfort zone to do as far as tasks are concerned. And as far as other savings are concerned, we're going to have to think about it, look forward what to do, because it is an important thing.
Thank you, Steve. Now we're going to start question 4, and Anthony Brownie, we'll be starting with you. What ideas do you have or support to try to reduce energy costs?
Interesting. I think, as I understand it, we're purchasing our energy right now. I guess we could renew our contract to do that. We could also try using in the building itself different types of light bulbs. maybe more energy efficient light bulbs. And that would be what I would do.
Okay, thank you. Joe Goldman?
It's a good question. The energy cost. So we at the moment have a contract for where we buy our electric in bulk and we sub-meter it. And we're always looking at, you know, extending, prolonging, getting better rates for it. The same thing with the oil that we use. We use number 2 oil, which is the clean oil. And again, we're always looking at costs and trying to save on that as well. I did mention, I do think that it is time we do look at, again, cogen and, you know, and I think that's important. That's something where we potentially could save, but we'd have to look at the return on investment on that expenditure. And again, we're always looking at every corner to see where we could save. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question, Denise Kohler.
Hi. Yeah, I think I would probably just echo what Anthony and Joe had said, that I would take a look at the different contracts we have in place right now, as well as do some general maintenance around the property in terms of insulation and light bulbs and doors and things of that nature.
Thank you. Ayanna Quint?
Same again. I don't have a lot of insight into the exact details of what our energy costs are and what the contracts are, obviously. But I would say that there's probably some areas where we can make improvements where we could save on energy. I'm not sure what the cost is in the lobbies to improve the insulation to the windows there, but it seems to be that we're letting a lot of heat and in the wintertime out through those uninsulated windows. Also, to echo what Anthony said, talking about saving on different uses of light bulbs. And the last thing is I would be curious to see if there's any city programs that would offer us any incentives to switch over to some green initiatives. The city does have programs that do that. I know Seward took advantage of that a couple of years ago. So that would be something to take a look at and see what other city initiatives there are to improve our programs here and take advantage of the monies that they would provide.
Let's go to Matthew Schatz.
Okay, hello again. This is definitely a place where we can spend very little to save a lot. So certainly ensuring the proper insulation of windows and doors to make sure that we're not wasting energy that we're using for heat or for air conditioning. Placing our shared lighting, like in hallways and the common spaces, on timers with energy efficient lighting sources like LED light bulbs will bring a huge amount of savings. Also looking into batteries to store excess energy that we use and then use it at peak energy times, because usually when you are using energy at peak times, that's when it costs the most. So if we have energy that we are storing, then we use it at peak times, we don't have to pay the same amount of money. Eventually, as I said before, the slow transition to green energy, where we can eventually sell our energy back to the grid and make money from the energy we produce, as well as looking into electric charging stations in our parking lots for people who are using or driving electric cars, and using compost to enhance our soil on our property, which would reduce the amount of energy needed to produce fertilizer, that kind of thing too.
Thank you, Matthew. Let's go to Diana Wong.
Well, I think that we've tried so many things. We've heard at all the meetings, we always come to this. We want to do composting. We don't want to do composting. We want to save on the garbage. We want to sell the garbage. We want to do this. There are so many things that we can try to do. At this point, I'm open to all kinds of considerations. And Matthew, you have some very good ideas. And we're willing to listen. So maybe we can work together and see what we can come up with. Right now, that's the best that we can do right now.
Okay, thank you. Michelle Amar.
Yes, I agree with Diane and Matthew. Green energy would be a great solution. I think our management have already negotiated amazing deals with our energy fuels. But I would be open to research the implementation of solar panels and green energies and to see what would be the investment cost and what would be the savings on it.
Thank you. Barbieri.
Yeah, I definitely think that the LED light bulbs is a great idea. It's an excellent opportunity to save. And of course, the solar panels, we definitely would have to assess, what the return on investment would be and analyze to see if it is worth it. But yeah, those are two excellent ideas to help. And again, maybe they're not as costly as we think they would be.
Okay, and Lee Berman.
One, aggressively negotiate our gas and electrical contracts. I am still surprised, amazed that I know people in smaller apartment buildings or even single dwellings who pay less electricity than we do, even though we're supposed to be getting a bulk contract. In addition, cogen, take advantage of NYSERDA grants. When I was on the board, I really tried to get the board and Heshy Jacobs at the time to go aggressively take advantage of those NYSERDA government grants, which would have paid for cogen units. There is solar power both on the rooftops of the commercial property, the power plant. I don't know if those grants are still available. The prices that many of the board members talk about were from 30 years ago. Those are things that we need to investigate, especially in light of the fact that the city is going to mandate additional green initiatives that are going to cost us money. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to start question 5, and Dove, you'll begin that. Listen carefully. What kinds of communications to shareholders do you suggest to keep shareholders informed? And what do you see your role to be in putting your suggestions in place if elected?
It's a good question. It is something that I think that we really need to do a better job on. I think that we should have at least quarterly statements that come out, a newsletter giving people an update on what's going on. Over the past year, I could say that it was very hard, just time-wise. It's not a good reason, but the truth is, between COVID and everything going on, it's very hard to, put everything together, but we do need to prioritize that, to allow the transparency to see everything that is being worked on. I think that's important, as well as trying to get, a semi-annual financial statement out to just see, even if it's just a quick picture, even if it's not every number, perfect, but to get so that everyone knows where we are. There's nothing there that's being hidden, but we should let you know this is our homes and this is our most important, possession for most of us.
Thank you, Dove.
Thank you.
Okay, Denise Kohler, same question.
Hi, thank you. I think the first thing I would do is overhaul the website and make it a little bit more cohesive and use it as an opportunity, as Ayanna had said earlier, to put all the memos on there, and so we have a record of all those. Also, I would push for semi-annual financial meetings, emails for the board members so they can be contacted directly. The newsletter, there's a bunch of exciting things we can do to increase conversation with our neighbors.
Thank you. Ayanna Quint?
Yes, I would like to echo revamping the website, creating not personal email addresses for board members, but putting contact email addresses for board members on the website. It's some first name at coopvillage.coop, simple. Making a centralized location where you can access the memos and communications from the board and from management. As we did over the summer, you can have Zoom meetings or some sort of communication where shareholders are able to talk to the board separately from the annual meeting, because the annual meeting is not a viable place to have communication with the board. There's too much to get done during that meeting, and questions are either cut short or not answered because of time. I would like to say that I think that people have been pushing for this for quite a while, and I don't see any reason why this couldn't have been happening all along, because, people have been asking for this for a long time.
Thanks, Ayanna. Sorry. Okay, let's move on now to Matthew Schatz.
Hello. So real quick, I forgot to mention in our cost-saving question, a real easy way is to switch from our old outdated ovens to our new convection electric ovens, and also heat pumps. But getting onto the communication, we need to communicate in both the 20th and the 21st centuries. So definitely issuing a paper newsletter at a readable font for all our cooperators, especially for our North cooperators, an electronic news blast, an updated website, making sure that we're on social media platforms, and all of those to have a cohesive message that's going through all those, so everyone is kept in the know in a transparent way so everyone is literally on the same page, whether it's electronic or on paper.
Thank you, Matthew. Diana Wong?
Well, my comment to all this is I agree with everybody. Transparency is not something that the board is trying to hide. We have been remiss in printing, and part of it is for my problem. I'm a PhD, push your dummy. I have no idea how to do any of the websites, and the Zoom thing is all new to me. I'm an old timer. But we do have a lot of educated people on the board that can probably do this. And like you said, between the pandemic and the fact that we should have been doing this, yes, we are blamed for that. But that being said, sometimes transparency is not the answer to the God question. That's the saving grace for everything. Do you really have to know that we pay 10 cents less for a bag of salt? Do you really need to know that we paid $20 for a case of this or a case of that? But okay, that being said, I agree. The communication is very important, and we will try to do our best, and we will try to do it so that I can communicate as an older person, and so we can communicate with the younger group too.
Thank you. Let's go to Michelle AMAR.
Yes, I believe that also that communication is key. And to answer Ayanna's question, I think that in the last months, our communication was mostly directed towards COVID and safety, and we did not want to overload everybody with other unnecessary communication, and we were putting a priority on the safety and on COVID. That being said, I agree that we need to have a website that is very fluid and efficient. We should have a blog, we should have a newsletter, and we should have email address where people can actually send us their questions and concerns, and we can answer them as well. I think, we are all, very good with social media and everything, and that can be easily implemented.
Thank you. Steve Barbieri?
Yeah, I agree. Definitely the website should be a little bit more intuitive and user-friendly. I also think that maybe, I think Anthony mentioned it about getting together with the House Committee, and maybe we can provide a little bit of notes just to kind of inform some more cooperatives what happened at the board meeting, just brief and generalizations, just to get more communication out there. So I do believe it's probably something that could be worked on for 2021, for sure.
Thank you. Lee Berman?
What kind of communication do I suggest? Well, not that loony, angry, 4-page double-sided memo that you guys signed on to over the last week or 2 weeks. That's not really the type of communication I think we want or deserve. Email addresses for each individual board member, absolutely. Monthly reports from the board, Masrick, Gouverneur, Hillman, Seward, hundreds of other developments publish monthly reports from the board. They don't have to be verbatim, what happened or what was said at the board meeting, but we certainly deserve that. Quarterly financial reports. And here we are 1 week from the annual meeting, and we do not yet have the annual financial report that some of us who were on the board at the time demanded management make sure that we do not get it a day, an hour, or a couple of days in advance. We get it far in advance. That's the type of communication. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Anthony Brownie.
Well, first of all, I'm glad everyone's on the same page about communication. Matthew and I are on the House Committee together, and it's a big issue for us. And thank you, Matthew, for providing me with all this information. But when I do this newsletter, there's such a long approval process sometimes. I wish there was some way I could speed up that approval process for the newsletter so we could get communication out to cooperatives earlier and quicker. I think the website needs a little bit of upgrading. I think people can use Facebook or Instagram. I think just getting the information to our shareholders at a quicker process. I think a quarterly newsletter would be great, and just get some information from the board. So that's it.
So now we're going to move on to question 6, and Denise Kohler, it'll start with you. This is the question. what improvements to the property of the cooperative would you support to increase property values and remain competitive in today's real estate market?
That's a really good question. I think one of the improvements I would suggest, and I don't know that it has to do with being competitive, but I think it has to do with meeting the needs of the people who live here, is doing something about the door situation. That's where I would start. I do have that, I'm not really sure. I think our co-op has, been in existence and it's a homey place to live. And I don't know that I want to compete with the new co-ops that are moving in on the Lower East Side. I don't want a fancy rooftop deck and pool, right? None of us want to spend that money. I want my neighbor next door to not kill herself when she opens the front door. So I really would just like to see those kind of improvements and make sure things are safe and clean. And yeah, I think that's where I would go with that.
Thank you. Ayanna, Quint?
Hi. I'm going to just repeat what I keep saying about bike storage and storage spaces, but I think it would be a real benefit if people, when they moved in, knew that there wasn't a really years-long wait for some of these amenities. I also think I agree with Denise that I think it's really vital that we improve the door situation. I remember it was mentioned at previous Meet the Candidates night what that costs, but I think that we can find a way to make those doors safer and more accessible, not just to our elderly residents, but also to parents who are coming in with strollers, people who have who are differently abled and maybe not as mobile as some of the other tenants. And I also think that I would like to take a look at the way the landscaping is done, because we've got some beautiful plantings, but they're also in the middle of the yards, and kids are playing there and they're running through them. So maybe we can rethink how that's done so that the common spaces, the backyards, are more or better for families, and also don't destroy the things that we're paying to plant.
Sorry, Anna, time's up. Let's go on to Matthew Schatz.
Okay, so yeah, to echo some of the things that have already been said, I love how green the space is, but I think it could be greener with more native plants and native trees to produce more shade, as well as to encourage pollinators and more flowers to increase the color and the vibrancy. While we're talking about cost savings, about new, insulating our windows, we can also look into a new window treatments that could build a little bit of livelihood and a splash of modernity into our co-ops. Working with the city to create sidewalk cutouts for our NORC members, as well as our ease of travel around the confines of the co-op. Ease of entry, totally agree with what was said about what Denise said about the ease of entry in the doorways, but it needs to be safe and easy to get into and out of the buildings. And then also working with the city to increase the street trees and the plantings, just to build a more robust green space.
Thank you. Diana Wong?
Well, my thought on all of this is really very nice, but you also have to remember we are responsible financially. Some of these things that you're talking about will probably cost a lot of money. So we have to figure out which is a priority. Now, the flowers in our gardens, they're beautiful. Some of you don't remember, but many years ago, we were not allowed to have people playing in the gardens. So those flowers that are there are there. Yes, we can try, and we will try to maybe change it a little bit so that the kids can have more access and play a little bit more freer. And I think that would be a great idea. But again, everything is cost now. We are so tightly budgeted, and we just have to really think about that right now. I think our property is fine, as according to our assessment, our property is worth a lot of money. So I think we're fine for now. And for certain things, yes, things that don't cost as much money, we will try to help, and we will try to do it best we can.
Thank you, Diana. Michelle Amar?
Just a word to go back to the communication. I just wanted to remind everybody to communicate their email address to the management, because right now we only have half of the email addresses available for our shareholders. And if we want to communicate to everyone, we should have the majority of email addresses. Now to go back to the improvement and property values, I think like Diana said, it's we already have a beautiful co-op, and I think what would make it more competitive would be just to keep our maintenance low, and so it would be an attractive purpose for people who want to move in.
Thank you, Michelle. Steve Barbieri?
Yes, I agree with a lot of what people said. It'd be tough to, and again, the doors are probably an issue. I see some of the elderly people struggling with the doors, although that would be a cost if we had to, implement a new change for all, new doors for all the buildings. And then what happens if something happens to the elevators a year later, So I think as far as being competitive with other co-ops, I have a lot of friends and family who live throughout the city. I don't really think we're kind of like, below any other co-op as far as the property is concerned or for the amenities that we have. So I really can't think of anything that I would suggest at this time without being, prudent for costs.
Thank you. Lee Berman?
The first thing I do is survey our residents to determine what improvements they are looking for. We've got changing demographics. Do we need different types of amenities for the kids? Do we need additional play spaces for the kids in the playgrounds? Do we need things for teens? For older folks, that when we were built in 1955, the space may not have been designed as well for. Number two, the doors to the parks and the buildings. We have so many elderly and disabled people that find it so difficult and unfortunately even unsafe to use some of those doors. Increase the quality of security. Many of us have some concerns about that. Increase the number of parking spots, and as well as looking at furniture for the lobbies if it's affordable. Thank you.
Thank you. Anthony Brown? Anthony, you have to unmute.
Sorry. Thank you for that. I would just like to echo the same thing everyone has been saying about saving money and not having money at this time, but maybe we could think of a way to do the things we're doing and doing it a little less expensively. For example, maybe the plantings were more, not annuals all the time, more evergreen plants. We'd be saving money by not planting every year. Also, this last couple of years, we put out those great Adirondack chairs that break sort of in the middle of the summer. Maybe if we got a few that were more sturdy and just kept them and maintained them, we wouldn't have to buy them every year. So that's it.
And Dove Bowman.
Hi. Like everyone said, I like to say maintaining and upgrading like the community room, our gym, our playroom. They're very inviting for families and singles who want amenities without, leaving our grounds and seeking to go elsewhere. I think, maintaining those and keeping them nice, they'll get utilized and help generate revenues. Anthony, regarding those chairs, we actually had the first year more expensive ones. Those broke, and we went with the cheaper ones because the other ones kept breaking despite them being more expensive. Just so you know that, but we did go that route originally. And I wish I had a parking spot. I wish we could find more parking spots. I'm on the list. I am waiting, like a lot of us here. So please, if anybody can sit there and give me more spots, I'm here. I want more spots. Thank you.
Okay. So now we're going to start question 7 with Ayanna Quint. And I'm glad you asked that, Dove, because our next question. Parking is a challenge in New York City. Although we have 2 lots, there's an extensive wait list. Do you have any ideas or envision any opportunity to expand our existing parking lot, such as outsourcing to a vendor, in an effort to create more parking? And that starts with you, Ayanna.
Okay, so yes, parking is a big issue. I would love to do, I know an audit was done of the parking lot a while back. I think it's time to revisit that and make sure that there are no spots that are open that have been unassigned. I would also like to take a look at the way the parking list is managed. There's people on the list who've been, there's somebody at the top of the list who's, I think the date next to them is like 1994. I think it's time to explore maybe giving people the maybe 2 or 3 chances to take their parking space, and then they move to the bottom of the list. And so we have the person, we know the person at the top of the list is someone who is willing, ready, and able to take a parking spot as soon as it's available. I also think it's time to maybe talk about redrawing the lines in the Delancey lot, because the lanes there are quite wide, and it seems like there's an opportunity to find a few more spaces there. And also maybe take a look at getting an assessment from an outside contractor or someone who specializes in these things to see if there are ways that we can increase the number of parking spots, whether or not we would be making more money if we had a valet. I'm almost done. And if there is an opportunity to increase the number of spots that we have by rethinking the way that we're doing parking, and not just doing it internally, but maybe talking to an expert about what our options are, both.
On to our next person. Thank you so much. Let's go to Matthew Schatz. We only have 5 minutes left, Ayanna.
Okay, so I would definitely be open to working with an expert on parking to come and assess the lot. I mean, the lots are extremely valuable land. We could use it to our advantage to increase the spaces while stepping up to the 21st century, installing some electric charging stations to encourage electric vehicles. I also know that in the back lot, closer to the FDR, there's a connection to like what seems like an underutilized asphalt space. Redrawing the lines to possibly include that would increase the amount of spots immediately without doing that much work. But yes, definitely interested in enhancing our parking situation so it can become an asset, a further asset to the co-op.
Thank you. Diana Wong?
You know, the parking has been a big bane in our existence. I myself had to wait over 12 years for a parking space, and that happened 25, 30 years ago, and it was the best Christmas present I could ever get from the co-op. But that being said, we as the board members have tried so hard. We've tried double parking, maybe with second levels. We've tried maybe doing this. We've tried every which way to try to do. We have 1,600 families, and we only have, 400 spots. And figuring that out is very hard to do. Anybody that's at the top of the list, given the spot, is not going to go to the bottom of the list just because they may not be ready for another month or 2 or 3. So if you were given a spot and you didn't have a car, you'd go out and buy a car. So I don't think that's a viable thing. But yes, we are trying, and we're open for all sorts of suggestions. Yes, the Delancey Street parking lot maybe has more room. Maybe you can fit 10 more cars, but 10 more cars is not going to be the answer. There'll be 100 other people on that list waiting and waiting and waiting.
Okay, and the same question, Michelle? Unmute. Unmute, please.
Yes, I echo what Diana has to say. We even had the city drawing the lines on the parking lot to maybe save some spaces. We looked at many other options, a second level, and I also had to wait 13 years to get a parking spot. So the parking spot is a real challenge, and perhaps we could look at an outside vendor and see if we could rent something further away from the co-op to make it available to our shareholders. But it is a challenge, and we still haven't found a solution to that.
Okay, let's go to Steve Barbieri.
Hey, yeah, I agree. It's a hot commodity to get parking any place in the city. And one of the reasons why we have so limited spaces is because those who do have them and who lived here for a long time are never going to give up that spot or that car because they know it's a commodity to have and definitely a nice to have. We looked, like Michelle said, we spent a lot of time in the city with the DOT panning out different plans, design plans, and neither of them were work. The consultants that get paid hundreds of dollars an hour looked at our property and also assessed, other than sort of crossing the street of looking at underneath the bridge, which obviously is not our property, they didn't come up with anything else. So it's kind of a tough situation with the space that we have.
Okay, we have only about a minute and a half left, so I'm going to try to run through Lee Berman quickly.
I'll make it fast. Imagine those 10 people who could get those spots after waiting 20 years if even only 10 spots were opened up. We should hire, when I was on the board, I tried to get the board to hire the company that Seward used that does nothing but parking investigation, parking design, to see if they could eke out any more space. The parking lot is built for cars the size of boats from 1950. Anybody who says you can't fit more cars in there, recertify every year. There are people who no longer live here, whose spots are empty. It's a challenge, but it's a challenge that we should take on. Thank you.
I'm going to quickly go to Anthony, Brownie, and we still have 2 more people, so please, because we have to do the closing statement. Thank
Well,
you.
I just think that the quickest and easiest way to do this would be to try to find commercial parking somewhere else, I think.
Thank you. Dove?
As Steve and Diane and Michelle had mentioned, we had actually in the resiliency project worked with the city. They had come in with their plans, not at any expense to us, just so it's made clear. And we didn't have any gains on any of those spots. We additionally also, a number of years back, hired outside consultants to look at it. I wish we had those 10 spots. We don't have any spots. We're not hiding any spots. Sorry. And I wish it was me because I want to.
And last of all, Denise Kohler, and I apologize for rushing you through this, but we need.
I've got one thing to say. Ditto Lee, and I would like to see the reports because that is the transparency we're looking for. If all of this work's been done and there's nothing there, thank you so much for doing it. Let's see the reports.
Okay, so in closing, time's up for tonight's Meet the Candidates night. I want to thank all of you, the candidates, for this informative meeting. We look forward to seeing all of the shareholders, including our candidates, on our Zoom annual meeting on Monday, December 21st at 7:30 p.m. You'll receive login information shortly. Remember, your directed proxy vote must be received at the office of the cooperative's attorneys no later than 5 p.m. on Monday, December 21st. I thank you for your patience and for your great answers, and good luck to all of you candidates, and thank you again, and good night.
Thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Ellen.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night, and
Good night,
Thanks, everyone.
See you tomorrow.